We're now going to discuss what are known as time signatures. Simply put, time signatures tell us how many beats there are per measure of music. More than that though, time signatures help us define a tune. For instance, 3/4 and 4/4 marches are perfect for parades or formal ceremonies, while 2/4 marches are just great foot tapping tunes. 6/8 on the other hand have a swing to them that the others just don't have. For that reason, it's very important to learn the differences between the time signatures and what they tell us when learning new tunes. Time signatures tell us how many notes or beats there are in each measure and the value of those notes. In bagpipe music, it will usually be one of the fractions you see here in red. As indicated in this illustration, the top number equals the meter or beats per measure. The bottom number equals the value of those notes. On the left side of the screen, the time signature indicates the tune is written in 4/4 time, meaning there are 4 beats per measure and the quarter note gets the beat. To the right of the screen, the time signature indicates the tune is written in 3/4 time, meaning there are only 3 beats per measure, but the quarter note still gets the beat. Here are some additional examples of time signatures used within bagpipe music. Notice there are asterisks by the 9/8 and the 6/8 time signatures. This is because 9/8 and 6/8 are known as compound time, which we'll discuss here in a minute. The most common time signature in Western music is 4/4 time. Therefore, the letter C is often used as a shortcut instead of writing out the fraction 4/4. The majority of tunes played by novice pipe bands are 4/4 marches. Regarding the meter of a tune, or as we discussed previously, the beats per measure, there are 3 types used most often in pipe music: duple, triple, and quadruple. Duple, of course, has 2 beats per bar, triple has 3 beats per bar, and naturally quadruple has 4 beats per bar. There are 2 broad categories of time signatures: simple time and compound time. We've already discussed simple time a little bit. Let's now discuss compound time. To better explain compound time, or perhaps it'd be better put to compare compound time, let's revisit simple time signatures. As we previously discussed, in simple time, the top number tells us the number of beats per measure, while the bottom number tells us which note gets the beat. In compound time, the top number doesn't tell us the amount of beats per measure, but rather the number of notes per measure, 1/8 notes to be exact. Remember, I previously told you that there are 3 types of time: duple, triple, and quadruple. Well, compound time is no different. When counting the beats in compound time, we divide the top number by 3. So compound time is still duple, triple, or quadruple time. It still only has 2, 3, or 4 beats per measure. If nothing else, and on a lighter note, think about tapping your foot with the beat. In simple time, it's pretty easy. You just tap your foot 2, 3, or 4 beats per measure to keep time. No one wants to have to tap their foot 6, 9, or 12 beats per measure. It would get tiring very fast. Another way to think of the difference or compare simple and compound time is that simple time seems as if it was written for infantry to march to, whereas compound time tunes seem to gallop. They've got what's known as a swing, for lack of a better word, that simple time tunes just don't have. Most compound time tunes are written using groups of 3 quickly played notes, which can remind the musician playing the tune of cavalry charges. Again, think of the tune Gary Owen, and I believe you'll understand what I mean. Now, let's start putting it all together and look at a children's song we all know. You'll first notice that Frere Jacques is written in 4/4 time. So we know there are 4 beats per measure, and the quarter note gets the beat. You'll see quarter notes in the first and second measures, quarter notes and half notes in the third and fourth measures, some eighth notes on the second staff, as well as quarter notes and half notes. Having briefly looked at the written score, see if you can follow along as it's sung.
Frère Jacques, dormez-vous, dormez-vous, sonnez les matines, ding dang dong, ding dang dong.
I'm sure there are some of you, if not most, who are thinking to yourselves, I still don't get it. I don't understand all this about time signatures. Well, don't worry, you don't need to know everything about time signatures. You're a bagpipe player, man. It'll get a little clearer here in a minute. To help understand the difference between different time signatures, let's begin by comparing 3/4s to 4/4s. The following video will begin by playing a melody in 3/4 time, and then play the same melody in 4/4 time. Listen for the change. Now let's compare 3/4s to 6/8s. I think a fair question might be, since the fraction 6/8 is divisible by the fraction 3/4, what's the difference between 6/8s and 3/4s? Once again, it's all about the beat. 3/4s are generally written with 3 groups of 2 notes, which means there are 3 beats per measure. 6/8s are written with 2 groups of 3 notes, so there are only 2 beats per measure. Here, I've highlighted the beat in the famous 3/4 retreat called Green Hills of Tyrol. I'll count along while the tune is played so you'll better understand where the beat is.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
So now, let's do the same thing with the famous 6/8 march, Gary Owen.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Now try to find the beat for these two tunes on your own. After these, try replacing Scotland the Brave with Rowan Tree and Terabis with High Road to Gairloch, and do the same thing. Remember when I said earlier that it's the beat that tells us how long we play a note and not time? Well, I was only partially right. Obviously, when we play a note, we are playing it for a certain period of time, which is relative to the beat of the song. Some tunes are played slowly and some are played quickly. We measure the speed of a tune by what's called BPMs, or beats per minute. How do we know how many beats there are in a tune per minute? We know by using something called a metronome.
If you haven't already guessed, this is a metronome. Today there are very good electronic metronomes which can be purchased for under $30. Allow me to emphasize how important a metronome is to your piping careers. They're absolutely indispensable for those who wish to become good pipers. It will teach you how to play with and on the beat. It'll help you find the groove or swing of a tune. I've told all of my students over the years to practice with a metronome, and I can point out every one of them who didn't heed this advice. There are far too many pipers who can play with a band but cannot, or at least should not, perform solo because they just can't keep a beat. Buy a metronome and use it daily. It'll take some work to learn how to play on the beat, but you will stand out as a good musician down the road if you do. In closing, I hope this presentation has at least helped you to feel a little more comfortable when looking at tunes. Having said that, I wouldn't expect any new student to have an unknown tune placed in front of them and begin playing it at speed. Reading music is like learning a new language, in that if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So take this knowledge and apply it during your practices. Look at some sheet music and take it step by step, measure by measure, or note by note. In the coming months, I'll be publishing a follow-up presentation in which we'll discuss embellishments, how tunes are put together, and what to expect from the different genres within bagpipe tunes. Until then, practice daily and always strive for perfection.